You've probably experienced the sensation of checking your bank account, and rather than instantly shutting down the app in fear, you genuinely grin. For example, when you stop figuring out if you can afford that coffee or if buying groceries means spending the rest of the week eating ramen, this shift occurs at a particular number, which is not what most people believe. The majority of financial experts will tell you that six figures is the magic number, or that you need $1 million to feel prosperous. Here's what they're lacking, though. Well, there's a much smaller milestone that totally changes the way you feel about money. And everything changes when you hit it. That sum is $20,000. I'm Mark, and I think about money, financial psychology, and why some individuals appear to accumulate wealth so easily, while others remain in the same financial patterns for decades. I spend much too much time thinking about these topics. Please click the subscribe button and give it a try if you want to learn the true principles of wealth growth rather than merely hope that things will get better on their own. Giving you a new perspective on money, let me ask you a question before we get into why $20,000 is the true game changer. What comes to mind when you consider accumulating wealth? Perhaps you have an image of a child with a trust fund who never had to worry about money, or maybe you picture someone slowly working for years, accumulating wealth $1 at a time. The truth is, wealth building doesn't work the way most people think it does. Here's what actually happens. There are certain financial thresholds that act like invisible barriers. Once you cross them, the rules of the game completely change. $20,000 is the first major threshold that separates those who will build significant wealth from those who will spend their entire lives living paycheck to paycheck. And the crazy part is, most people have no idea this threshold even exists. Think about it this way: if you've ever tried to push a heavy boulder up a hill, you know that getting it started is the hardest part. The majority of people are unaware that this threshold even exists. Consider it this way: the hardest part of pushing a huge boulder up a hill is getting it started. As anyone who has ever attempted this knows, you're sweating, straining, moving extremely slowly, and wondering if it's really feasible. However, after you construct, when there is sufficient momentum, a miraculous event occurs. The boulder begins to move more quickly, and when you get to the top, it rolls down the opposite side with absolutely no effort. When you reach $20,000, your financial boulder finally reaches the top of the hill. Up until this point, everything feels like you're fighting gravity by pushing uphill. After this, everything seems to be going your way. This is when things start to become really intriguing, and you'll probably be surprised. The difference isn't just mathematical, it goes beyond just having more money to invest or having higher absolute returns. The true magic takes place within your mind. Your brain functions in what way when you don't have any money saved? Survival mode is what psychologists refer to it as. Every financial choice is influenced by shortage and anxiety. You can't afford to be picky, so you accept the first job offer that comes up, even if it's awful. You remain in circumstances you detest because it seems too dangerous to go. Because you need the money, you agree to do things you don't want to do. This goes beyond simply being sensible or accountable. Your brain literally cannot consider opportunities for growth when you are in survival mode. It's similar to attempting to arrange a trip while your home is on fire. Short term survival and acute threats take up all of your mental capacity. However, something amazing occurs when you surpass the $20,000 mark. Your brain now has room to think in a different way. Rather than inquiring, how do I survive until the next paycheck? How can I grow this money? You begin to wonder. You become proactive about accumulating wealth rather than reacting to every financial catastrophe that arises. A mere $2,000 in emergency savings boosts your financial well being by 21%, according to Vanguard research. 2000. That is less than what most individuals would spend on a luxury laptop or a trip. However, that tiny buffer causes a significant psychological change by removing you from survival mode. You get an additional 13% boost when you increase your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, which is typically roughly $20,000 in terms of financial health. More significantly, though, you've now made enough space for your mind to begin considering wealth creation rather than merely wealth preservation. This is when the math becomes extremely interesting. Assume you are making an 8% return on your investments and saving $1,000 a month. It takes roughly 19 months of steady saving and investing to reach your first $20,000. That's a year and a half of self control, selflessness, and postponed satisfaction. It's difficult, and to be honest, most people give up at some point. This is the portion that will wow you, though. It doesn't take an additional 19 months to get your second $20,000. It just takes roughly 17 months. Why? Because now, in addition to your monthly donations, you have the initial 20,000 working its own profits. Take a moment to consider this. You save the same amount of money and put in the same amount of work. Amount of money every month, took the same amount of risk with your investments, but since you had more money working for you, you were able to cut the timetable by 2 whole months. That's when compound interest power begins to work. The deadline is even shorter by the time you're aiming for your third 20,000. While you're exerting the same amount of effort, your money is performing an increasing amount of the heavy lifting. Additionally, when you reach the enormous numbers, the acceleration approaches a level playing field. After your investment portfolio reaches $400,000, you can produce 20,000 more in just 5 months. Your assets are now automatically saving the same amount that it took you almost 2 years to save in the first place. Every subsequent milestone become increasingly easy, but the initial one seems unachievable. You may now believe that those with money have access to a hidden world of investing that ordinary people are unable to enter. For instance, certain opportunities or unique hedge funds are only accessible after you achieve specific financial thresholds. While there is some validity to that at the very high end, the true reason behind this $20,000 occurrence is far more straightforward and, to be honest, much more inspiring. It's just simple math working to your advantage. If your $1,000 investment grows by 10% over the course of a year, you earn $100. Applying the identical 10% growth rate to $10,000 results in a $1,000 profit from the same investment, same time period, and same degree of risk. This explains why reaching 20,000 seems like such a significant milestone. With lower amounts, your investment returns feel nearly inconsequential until that time. $200 is a 10% return on $2,000. Pleasant, but not very transformative. However, $2,000 represents a 10% return on $20,000. We are now discussing money that is truly important. With 20,000 invested and yielding 8% a year, that's $1,600 coming into your account throughout the course of a year without requiring you to do anything. Money that you didn't have to work for. Money that was visible higher because the money you already had was working for you. The investment plan is no more advanced than what a $1,000 person could employ, and created the most significant financial habit you will ever form. Additionally, this may sound like some self-help gibberish, but bear with me because this is where things start to become truly useful. If you were beginning from scratch, consider how much it would actually cost to save $20,000. This calls for a great deal of discipline. Unless you're living in your parents' basement or earning absurd amounts of money, every dollar's destination had to be monitored. In order to save money, you had to turn down things you wanted. That week, you had to fight the impulse to spend your savings on whatever flashy item caught your eye. Above all, you had to perform all of this on a regular basis. You can use the same brokerages, purchase the exact same index funds, and adhere to the same fundamental ideas. The sole distinction is scale, which turns modest percentage gains into actual financial advancement. However, this is the section that the majority of people overlook, and it may be the most crucial aspect of the entire film. In actuality, saving $20,000 is significantly more worthwhile than simply building up funds in a bank account, your brain has been radically rewired.